Had to bring my cheat sheet so I know what days they're on. Oops. Like you.
I like to keep you involved.
Come to Mike.
Okay. All right, good morning, everyone. We'll call to order the Criminal Justice, Public Safety and Emergency Services Committee for January 21st. This is our first meeting of the year, so now we welcome back our returning members, Supervisors Mayday, Driscoll, Conover, Strainer, and Gilligan. And we've got a new member this year, Supervisor Patchett, so welcome.
Thank you.
Appreciate you joining us. And then, as always, our chair is with us, Supervisor Garrity. We appreciate you always being with us. First order of business is to approve the minutes of the prior committee meeting. Hopefully you all had a chance to review those. Motion. Supervisor Strainer, second Supervisor Gilligan, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
Abstained?
I abstain.
All right, we've got a full agenda. All of our departments are here today, and obviously there's many other committees coming after us, so we'll be respectful of everyone's time today. The first department up is the District Attorney's Office. We've got our District Attorney with us. So, Jason, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman. So many of you have probably heard me say these exact things. We're coming up on our 3 years receiving a certain grant. It's our Crime Victim Assistance Grant. And every 3 years we have to reapply. So it's just we're going through that grant processing process, and we're at that front end of that now. So the reason I'm up here is I'm seeking permission to make the application. And I think I added in the language, Paulette and I did, to receive it if granted. So that's been funding the crime victim program since I've been as district attorney and for years and years and years before that. I will say, I want to say this, there is a small match that I know is required, which is 5% of the salary of the director can't be covered by the grant, but the grant can cover everything else. In the past, it's done a terrific job. That money has gone to almost keep the county, you know, sometimes some years we've had very, very low cost to county whatsoever. There were years pre-COVID where they had other matching requirements, and we're able to do those matching with space. So the county allows our crime victims to work in the building, and we have space we're used to meet with victims. And in the past, we've always been able to meet any of those type of matching requirements just using the space that we have and whatever cost is going to the director or otherwise. We have not had to do those matches other than the 5% for the director since COVID. I can't predict the future, but in the past, we've never had to have the county come up with additional monies to make the match. In the past, it was a 25% total match. Again, we just haven't seen that in a while. So we're looking to apply, and if granted, and we really hope we are again, to receive those monies to fund the crime victim program that we have, which would be currently we have a director and a senior. So it's Manoa Affinito and Michaela Chapa. You've probably seen them, some of our programs. They're having contact with crime victims every single day. And we're hoping to continue that.
I'll move it.
Motion, Supervisor Conover, second Supervisor Mayday. On the question, Supervisor Strainer.
The match, is that in your budget?
Well, no, because it's future monies. So I guess, I don't know if it would be.
Previously, it wasn't either.
We've always had it in there. So basically the way it's looked in the past, when you're saying the match, you're talking about the 5% director.
5%, yes.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, it's always been addressed with the board every time. We have not really budgeted the other matches in the past because we were always able to accomplish them. They give you a certain per square footage value for space you utilize for victims. And obviously we have victims in the office a lot, and we have a lot of space we utilize for them, whether it's a waiting room or a conference room or the two offices. So we've always been able to utilize that using not funds, but the space, which then translates in a per square footage. There's some translation they give us.
Supervisor Conover.
Yeah, just for the committee, order of magnitude, size of the grant.
I think last year we got about 160,000 roughly, and I don't have it memorized.
So 5% would be about $8,000.
Well, actually, it'd be less. So you take the salary of the director and then 5% of the so let's to make my life easy, and this isn't the salary, but let's say it was 100,000, it would be 5,000.
Sure.
So pretty much the grant has just about, can't fully fund because of that requirement, but it funds almost the entire program.
Supervisor Patrick.
Just, could you just give a real brief overview of the victim, relief program? Or, I'm saying it wrong, the victim assistance program and how it works?
Yeah, so we have 2 crime victim specialists that have been with the office. I think one's 5 or 6 years and one's got 15 or 17 years. And of course, every crime that well, I shouldn't say that. Most crimes that you have, there's going to be a crime victim. Say someone's been assaulted or raped or the victim of homicide. Victim in statutorily can go beyond. So if someone dies, there are other victims of that case. So when we have a vehicular homicide, obviously the direct person is a victim who's died, but then their families. We're going to be meeting with those families and trying to set them up with services and get them through the criminal justice process, which can be pretty challenging for someone who's never been through it. There's a lot that maybe they don't understand. And so we try to help them with that. And then these 2 individuals coordinate services for them. Some might need to get referred to domestic violence shelter, for example, or get that kind of help. All kinds of resources that we don't directly provide. We don't do those direct services. They're coordinating with those individuals to get them into areas within our community where they can get the resources they need to kind of help them through whatever situation they're dealing with. Obviously, it's really varied because of the different kinds of cases that we see.
Thank you.
Other questions? Tammy, the administrator, you're all okay with this? Okay, all right, good. This is an exceptional service that you provide. And that we've had some really high profile cases in recent years, and I know how passionate the staff is, and I'm sure it'll be successful in the future as well. So we got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carry. Anything else for us?
No, I'm not sure. Larry, did you? No,
we're good.
No, we're good. Okay.
Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, we've got our director of probation with us. Bob, before you start, I neglected to offer privilege of the floor. Is there any comments? By any member of the committee? Anyone else? Our treasurer.
Oops, just, I don't need to go there.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry. Just, I will absolutely. Here you go. I'll make sure that, I'll check the budget to see if the local matches are in there for all of our departments. I'm pretty sure they're budgeted, but again, this one's nominal, but I'll just do a quick review of the budget to make sure if we've got local matches, they're budgeted appropriately for. Okay.
All right, thank you. Bob, we've got a couple of requests. The first is in anticipation of promoting a probation officer to senior probation officer and having a vacant probation officer position, they desire to create a probation officer trainee position, remove funding from the current probation officer position, but keep the title and code unfunded and use the existing funding for the position. So you want to explain that to us?
Yeah, good morning. That's a lot of words. It's actually pretty simple. If I could have said it shorter, I certainly would have. We've had a couple of vacancies this year. I was up in November and we did something similar. We had a probation officer retire, a senior probation officer retire. We're going to promote another individual to a senior. That creates a vacant probation officer position. But the entry level position in our department is a probation officer trainee, which is a little bit less in salary. So what we want to do is create a probation officer trainee position, use the funding from the probation officer position for that trainee, which will be less, and then keep the vacant probation officer line there, because in a year, we're going to promote the probation officer trainee to a probation officer.
Motion Supervisor Conover, second Supervisor Driscoll, and question Supervisor Conover.
Yeah, I mean, I think given where we are with the labor force and everything, I think it's a smart move. That way, you're sure to get someone and make sure that they're properly trained before you can move them into a position with more responsibility. And I think keeping that within your organizational structure but unfunded, it's definitely the way to go.
Yes, and the probation officer trainee has allowed us to have a larger recruitment of individuals.
Other questions? Being none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Second item is to apply for funding with Operation Underground Railroad and Company and in the amount not to exceed $15,000 for the term commencing as soon as possible through 12/31/25 in order to use the funding to purchase digital forensic software from Data Pilot.
Yes, what we want to do is to purchase software through Data Pilot, which in essence gives us software to use to download cell phones that we would I don't want to say confiscate, but our probationers have sex offenders. They're not supposed to have certain things on their phones. We monitor that. If they typically have something that we want to download, we usually bring it to a law enforcement agency because we don't have the software. Sheriff's Office, Glens Falls PD, State Police, and they're very good. However, they also have a lot of phones they're looking at, so there's backup, and sometimes it takes a while. So we have the opportunity through a grant, possibly with an organization called Operation Underground Railroad that deals with exploited children. The sheriff's office actually gave us this information and gave us a heads up. I spoke to the people of Operation Underground Railroad. It's a small application to file. The amount of money we're looking to get is probably in the neighborhood of about $10,000, if that. Typically, they would fund us for that. We would purchase the software. In exchange, we would share some information with Operation Underground Railroad with respect to youth and exploited children that may come upon us. So it seems like a good deal. I think it's worked well for other agencies. The amount of money is not that much. Simple grant, so I'm looking to do that.
Motion moves forward. Supervisor Mayday, second. Supervisor Gilligan. Any questions for Bob on this? Seeing none, all in favor? Question from the attorney.
We're also going to authorize acceptance of the funds as well as any additional awards that come due and the additional ability for the chair to sign any additional documents that are required for additional funding. So this way it's a one-time appearance.
Yeah, and to follow up, if we do get the grant, we will amend the budget. We'll put that money in. We'll have contracts, and if there's legacy costs such as software, annual software, which may be in the amount of $1,500, which wouldn't go in this year, will go into next year. We'll factor that in and take care of all that should we get the grant.
Supervisor Driscoll.
Thank you, Chairman. I don't know how many you would expect to do in the course of the year, but my understanding is that you're going to utilize this for as many individuals as you can. And if you get backloaded, then you essentially pass it off to a law enforcement organization.
Yes, we're hoping that we wouldn't get backloaded. Typically, we
Okay.
do 5, 6, 7 a month.
Okay.
So we should be able to do that as
Okay,
well,
great.
and we won't put the burden upon them. They're great partners, but they got a plan
Sure,
to do.
yeah. Good. Thanks, Bob.
Any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Bob, anything else for us?
I have nothing else.
Thank you very much for being here. We appreciate it. Next up is our Public Defender's Office. We've got Aaron Brothers with us today. There's 4 items without objection. I think the first 3 we can move together. One is a grant award notice. The other is to amend the county budget. So Aaron, if you want to go through those first 3, I think we can act on them.
No, so yes, we received 2 grant award notices from the New York State Division of Criminal Justice Services to be used on eligible expenses incurred by March 31st, 2025. Each total $190,300. Part of that is for the assigned counsel program. So our split from that is the Public Defender's Office has $139,737.29. So we would like to accept those award notices as well as request to amend the county budget to put that money into our budget to be spent. One of the programs is for discovery reform. With that one, we took a look at needs that we have to upgrade technology in our wing where the Public Defender's Office is, as well as look at a new software program that we have been looking at for the past few years and have the funding now available for us to potentially use that. The other is a supplemental award. And we would like to have some of that money put into our salaries for stipends to be paid, as well as have a portion put in for expert use, just to help balance that we already have with ILS funding.
All right. Any questions for Aaron on the item 1, 2, or 3?
What are we voting on? I'm not, because there was a lot of other information in there. So if we're voting on 1, 2, and 3, but there was some uses in there that I may have to have some discussions about.
I heard salary.
So being the resolution requests are fine as they're written to request to accept and recognize the 2 awards. To amend the county budget under 2 and 3. But as far as the use, there was a use of salaries and that I need a little bit more information on stipends and salaries.
So it would be a one-time stipend, as this award notice is only good through the 31st. So it would be a one-time stipend paid to the attorneys from the 24 to 25 budget year. There was a difference in salaries awarded to other attorneys in the county. The public defender's office did not receive that. The majority of the attorneys or the assistant public defenders did receive just the 3% COLA increase. So we were hoping to be able to use this to help pay them a one-time stipend to have some type of parity between the departments.
As a general policy, there's a prohibition on awarding past service. So a stipend or a bonus or anything that's key to an employee who's here, who's receiving that money because they've been here in the past, is a prohibited gift under the Constitution. The legal concept again and again, and I know this has come up in the county a number of times in the short time I've been here, is that when an employee works and earns their pay for a given pay period, that's what they agreed to receive for that pay period. So municipalities, as a general rule, are prohibited from giving additional money for services that have already been rendered in the past. So,
Well, let me ask you, couldn't this money be used for both retention, which we know is an issue? We've heard that throughout our budget preparation this year. So retention, there's no county fund, am I correct? There's no county funds involved with this?
There's no county funds,
Okay.
correct?
Retention and recruitment, isn't that an eligible expense?
no. No. Not for employees who are already on staff. If the county and this committee wants to amend the budget and the salary structure for just the attorneys in the public defender's office, that would be a way to go forward so that they're receiving that money as additional pay over the course of the year. But you have to adjust their salaries going forward. You can't just give a stipend for those services that they've already performed.
Okay, well, the salary doesn't carry over till next year, right? Whatever the amount is, if it's $1,000, $5,000.
No, the salary would be the salary
The
going
salary
forward.
would be going forward. So if you apply it as salary, we would continue to fund it from the county.
I must be missing something. I don't understand why, if it's a lack of a better term, it's additional funding, bonus funding coming to the public defender's office. They can't use it to retain, for an incentive to retain
The
their
county of
attorneys?
Warren cannot pay any employee for services they've already rendered, or for the mere fact that by giving them the stipend because they're here is in effect paying them for the past work that they've done. I'm unaware of any retention bonus exception to the gift and loan clause of the New York Constitution. So any lump sum payment to an employee, or because if we say just because they're here, we're gonna give them money, what does that mean? It means you can call it a retention bonus, but in effect, because they were here yesterday, you're paying them this money today to stay for tomorrow. You can create a program that incentivizes people and employees to stay employees, but I believe it has to be done with, without violating, discrimination and discrimination provisions, and would probably have to be across the entire county and not limited to an individual department. I'm unaware of how you pay any county employee a stipend because they're a county employee today. Or on the date in the future that you're gonna pick to give them the stipend because they've been a county employee in the past. It's still a gift because their employment is being paid. They're receiving full compensation each pay period for the work that they're performing. The way to do it is to amend the salary schedule. But then that's an amendment that continues forward beyond the current budget year.
Correct. Supervisor Conover.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think there are a couple of questions here. The second one that the attorney's been talking about, perhaps that's going to need a little more discussion and vetting between the county administrator, the attorney, and the department to make sure that it's whatever is being proposed correctly. The second is, it says to recognize two grants, and that the word recognize is an interesting word because if they've been awarded to us and we've received the dollars, I guess that's my first question. Are we in receipt of these dollars? We are. And when did we receive the dollars?
I'm unsure of the exact date they came in. It was 2 weeks ago that I believe I spoke to confirm we have received them in our county
Okay.
to the Division of Criminal Justice Services.
So the first question is a budgetary question, which is if I suspect if we received those dollars in 2024, that since we're in 2025, those dollars would have fallen to our fund balance, I believe. And no, unexpended dollars within the budget fall your fund balance. And we reappropriate when we have grants to go from one year to the next. The departments come to and we reappropriate those dollars. So I think the first question would be, when did we receive the grants and what happened to the money? I suspect that they may have fallen to our fund balance, but that may need a little exploration as well. So if we're going to put the money back in the department's budget for some future use, we would need to know so what to do in that regard.
Supervisor Mayday.
How did it work out in Albany County? I know not so well politically, but I'm just saying that it was a similar situation with the district attorney's office, right? Didn't they get a grant?
I can't speak to specifics. What I can tell you is in Warren County for 2024, there were modifications to the attorney salary structure. And I don't want to speak out of turn, but it's my understanding that the district attorney's office, their salaries were increased by $10,000 going forward based on a 5-year grant. But that's a change in the salary structure for that office, and payments by those employees aren't received until the future dates that they do the work because they're working under a new salary level. They're not getting a stipend, reward, bonus, retention, bonus, however you want to, whatever terms you want to use. In Warren County, the increase in district attorney pay was based on a flat $10,000, which changed their salary structure. And then I'll defer to the county administrator for any other comments on that structure.
Now, that was a discussion we had at budget time. The district attorney received a grant. And they know it's a 5-year grant, so the determination was made, the recommendation from the district attorney was to give a $10,000 pay increase.
it wasn't a lump sum payment at one time, it was included in their salary, it'll be included in their salary going forward. And just some comments, because I've heard a few now. We talk about retention all the time. Quite frankly, retention is not a significant issue at the county. Our retention of attorneys is 95, 94% right now. We have 25 attorneys and 15 are paid over $100,000. And that's significant for the county, a significant expense going forward. So we've talked about it last budget cycle. We aligned all the attorneys, PA, public defender, county attorney, DSS attorneys, based on what we saw their responsibilities as and what an appropriate salary would be. And we thought we got there pretty well. So I don't think it's a retention issue. I think if there is an issue with retention in the county and we want to pay retention bonuses, I have asked other county administrators, no one else is doing that. But we would need some type of local law if it was even legal to do, and I'd have to defer to the county attorney on that. So, I mean, I think that we've done a pretty good job with the attorney salaries. And we can't continue to have an escalation of attorney salaries at the expense of the rest of the county. 108 out of units, 18 of those are paid over $100,000. And those are people who run large organizations in the county. So trying to balance all this as much as we can. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Supervisor Conover.
Yeah, I mean, normally with the grant, you have a grant contract that there are provisions for the grant. And so one of my concerns here would be, is this one of those grants where it's use it or lose it? Do we have a contract on this? If we don't have are we going to have a contract on this for funding? I mean, those are the kind of, let's say, before we even get to a question of how it should be expended, I think that first I would need to know, a little more about it. And I don't want to find ourselves, 60 days down the road, writing a check back to the state of New York for funds that we've received that we couldn't figure out a good use for. So my recommendation would be that we could spend a lot of time on this, but I think until we satisfy the county administrator, the department and the county attorney, I think that this matter should be, and the treasurer, oh, by the way, I think this matter really needs to be tabled before we make a decision.
Is there another question before Supervisor Driscoll?
I guess it was Aaron had referenced a date that the money has to be expended by, and
Yeah, so it does say that the money is supposed to be used by March 31st. I did ask the question about what happens. They said that we don't pay back the money. It's just more if an audit was to occur, showing that the money was utilized for kind of the expenses outlined in each grant award notice.
I misunderstood. I thought you said February 21st, and that would have made it
March
really
31st.
difficult to.
Could this be tabled to the finance committee meeting?
Supervisor Conover, you made a recommendation to table.
I mean, I think this committee, I think we're forced to have to table this, but I think I think commonly, I think this would go to finance anyway, I believe.
2 and 3.
And sometimes on these grants, what you can do is you can apply for administratively apply for an extension. I don't know if that's allowed. You may be able to ask for an extension on the,
Certainly.
you could ask for an extension on the time from March.
Let's have Amanda explain procedurally what we can do.
So I'm assuming, is this a new grant? Or is this an extension of a grant? Because
No,
Or
it's
just based on what
new
it's-
monies.
okay, so where it's saying to recognize 2 grant award notices, I'm assuming that's actually authorizing the grant agreements for those and authorizing
The
chair.
grant money arrived at Warren County.
Right, but is there a grant agreement? Because the grant
There's
agreement-
nothing that needs to be signed. The money simply was awarded and arrived in the county.
So then what would go to finance would be items 2 and 3 to amend the county budget. So
Okay.
you can amend the county budget to bring those funds in, but the point that the county attorney is making is that you can't use that money for stipends. You can put that money into your budget accounts, but you can't spend it on stipends. The only way to increase the salary is to amend the table of organization to increase the salary for each attorney according to the amount you want to give them. But you have to keep in mind that those increases are going to carry over.
Yes.
Unless in the 2026 budget, you reduce those salaries, which is not commonly done.
Yeah, and one thing I do want to explore is I know that other counties have used this money for that specific purpose. So I do just want to understand that. I understand that Warren County specifically, has their, the wording. I want to understand it for my own, personal knowledge. Do we have a moment to kind of speak on retention for our office? Because, I heard the retention conversation that occurred, but I would like to maybe expand on that a little bit for the public defender's office specifically.
If I could just. So first we have to, and I don't have any issue with the committee voting on the requests 1, 2, and 3. It's just that in voting for that, I would encourage the committee not to approve some plan on how that money is going to be expended. But the grant award notices that are in the package are dated from June 14th of 2024. So these awards were issued back in June. But I would just counsel the committee members and the supervisors to take caution in rushing to spend money in a manner that may not be legally appropriate because of a deadline that's approaching. When the award was back in June, that's the first point. Second point is, we still have to have some approval process for applying for the grant, unless there's no application and the money just shows up. But it's not really recognizing, I guess it's approving a grant that we didn't apply for is really what's happening here, and money that we already have in 2024 that we need to spend by the end of March of 25.
Supervisor Patchett.
Yeah, I guess kind of what I'm hearing, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that some attorneys got pay increases and some didn't. And what I heard County Administrator Mr. Taflin say is that they took everything into account based on responsibility. The decision was made, the board approved these salaries, and seemingly some departments feel a little, or this department feels that maybe they should have gotten it and didn't. And I think that's what we're talking about. Does that kind of summarize it a little bit? I can't speak to whether or not it should or shouldn't have been given, but I do respect that Mr. Taflin hit the nail on the head, most likely.
I don't read it exactly like that, but we've got to request to table these items and get further information. So I suggest that that's what we do. We don't need a,
To table it?
Yeah.
If you want to officially table it, you need a motion, a second, and a majority.
all right, we got a motion from Supervisor Conover to table it. Second. Is there a second?
Just before we do that, can I just ask a question?
Let me get the second. It was Supervisor Strainer on second. Now on the question.
All right. Can you accept these monies? That's what I thought I understood. We can accept these monies, but not necessarily the spending of it, right?
Yeah,
Wouldn't it make sense regardless to accept this money if it has to be done by a certain date, or?
you can, so I would say if the committee were to vote, you'd be voting in favor of items 1, 2, and 3, which would be whatever we're gonna have to look into the grant award part. Because as county attorney said, typically our process is you have to have a resolution authorizing the application or ratifying the application and then authorizing agreements going forward. Typically, we don't have a spot where somebody just sends us money and we say, okay, thanks, and go about our day. There's a process. And then amending the budget, you can amend the budget as this shows, and the money can go into the salary codes. The problem is gonna be spending that money out of the salary codes, because you can't just give someone stipends or increase their salary without further board action. So you'd have to amend the table of organization to increase every attorney's salary according to whatever amount that is. And then you could spend that money out of those codes. If you don't do that, the money that's in those codes would just sit there and it wouldn't really be spent. It would eventually fall back to the general fund. Which I guess you could say you're using that fund to pay the salary, the grant to offset the salaries that were already paid. That the county did pay, you just wouldn't be giving an increase. You could look at it either way, I would guess. But yes, to your question, you could approve these as they are here. And that would put the money in the budget, but it would not give any authority to spend those dollars. They
Supervisor
would just sit
Conover.
there.
Yeah, I mean, I think Amanda says it better than I said. I mean, if we receive these funds in 24 and they fall into the fund balance, and then it's for 25 budget, you went through your salaries and you made your salary adjustments, we would need to pull those dollars back out of the fund balance and put them back in the departmental budget. And so we really need to know, you know, exactly what is transpired here, because our budget officer and our budget committee and everyone, you know, you're operating with an operating condition where you're looking at your fund balance. You have an idea what your fund balance is. And so I think there's a lot of questions here, which maybe we can answer. Maybe we can figure out something going forward. This in the best interest of the county.
All right, the motion on the table is the motion is to table this from Supervisor Conover, second by Supervisor Strainer. Was there any other questions or discussion on these items? Seeing none. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. One last item. That's to enter into a new contract with Legal Server to update and replace the current case management platform to increase efficiency in the public defender's office. All right.
Yeah, so this does go in line with the discovery reform funding from the grant award notice, but it is a new program. I am working with the purchasing department to get any RFPs or sole source requirements completed. This program would give the attorneys an opportunity to use software for case management offsite while they're in court. It would greatly increase the efficiency. And also be able to have a direct link to discovery. So it would increase and help the attorneys out while in court.
Motion to move this for Supervisor Driscoll, second. Supervisor Gilligan, any questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. There's one discussion item. That's fourth family defense, which is child welfare quality improvement and caseload reduction grant. Aaron?
So I wanted to let you all know that we were selected for this ILS grant. This is the first family court grant that we've had come into our office. The rest are primarily criminal. First Assistant Aaron Coleman worked very diligently to get this money. It's $250,000 a year, awarded over 3 years, with the opportunity for that to continue into future years. So I just wanted to let you know that operates the same as the ILS grants, where we record our expenditures and send it in for reimbursement. And if possible, I have one more discussion item. I just want to, if that's all right, very briefly.
Yeah, go ahead.
I've got Delaney Wilson here today. She is a senior at Queensbury High School. She is part of the Criminal Justice Pathway Program. She's been with our office for 2 to 6 hours a week since September. And this allows her to get a credit for college going forward. So I just wanted to introduce everybody to Delaney. She's been
Welcome.
fantastic to have in our office, and I wish her well in her future endeavors. Today is her last official day with us, so.
Wow. Thank you for being with us and good luck to you. Aaron, one quick question. How many attorney vacancies does the public defender's office have?
We currently have 4.
Out of how many?
Out of how many total attorney
How many,
positions?
how many are authorized? You know,
I'm sorry,
how many attorneys are authorized staffing?
15. 15.
Okay. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. Sheriff's agenda. We've got the under sheriff with us. We've got 2 requests and 1 discussion item. First is to amend the county's agreement with New York State Department of Corrections and Community Supervision to account for annual increases in correctional facility food expenses. Under sheriff?
Yes, sir. So we have surpassed the 126,114 not to exceed amount. We're asking not for funding, but just to amend the contract so we can go above that.
Motion to move this request forward. Supervisor Mason, second. Supervisor Strainer. Any questions, discussion?
Just to get us to May,
Yes, sir.
then May will restart this.
We may, yes, that's a possibility.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carried.
Yeah.
Second request is to create a new part-time building maintenance mechanic position. Under Sheriff.
We currently have lost a building maintenance mechanic to injury. He's out a lot longer than we expected or anticipated, unfortunately, and we're looking to create a part-time position to fill that spot. We've dodged a bullet, so to speak, with snow plowing and some roof repairs. But it's taking a toll on our two mechanics right now.
Motion move this forward. Supervisor Mayday, second. Supervisor Gilligan. I have one question. I raised this during budget time. I personally don't understand the process of Sheriff's Department having to have their own building maintenance. We have general services. We've got Superintendent Hajos overseas. I mean, if we need somebody to shovel snow around this building, is that hired just for this building? Or if we need somebody for the human services building, is that just for that building? I don't know what the answer is, but it seems odd to me.
If I may, sir, we're a 24/7 operation. If we have a problem at Friday at 6 o'clock, I know I can call Joe Dupre or Gordy Smith and they'll be there. I don't have, we tried originally back in 2020 when we first started, when we first came into office, and we had a boiler issue. Took a couple of days. Those folks are tied up here. Took a couple of days for those folks to get from here to our building, and they could not repair it.
That's the process. I understand it. And
And
I'm not gonna object to it, but
we do a lot, and I can't speak highly, more highly of Kevin Hajos's crews. They come over and Friday night, Saturday night when it's slippery, they come over, they salt for us, and they do take care of us. So I can't. They do a lot for us as we sit here now. So.
Supervisor Patchett.
Just kind of piggyback on it, I guess the question becomes, how often does that situation arise where they're tied up here and they can't help over at the sheriff's office? And second question is, I mean, what fiscally makes more sense, to make a call to a professional mechanic when there's a big problem, or to hire a part-time person? I'm not really sure the answer, but.
Supervisor Mayday.
Just to speak from past experience, I remember it's probably about 15 years ago, I think the county did try to take over plowing. It just was more efficient to have your own people doing it all the time. Plus, those guys are very familiar with the building. So I think to have those bodies to begin with is important. I think if you go over there and look at the building and see how well it's maintained, it's something to be said for the way the guys take care of it. It's their own building, so.
Thank you.
Just my thought.
So it's a lot more than just mechanics, it's overall plowing, maintenance,
It's everything.
okay.
It's
That makes more sense.
if you've never seen the lift station full of items from the facility or from here, I'll take a picture next time, sir. You can take a look at that. It's a terrible, nasty job that they do take great. They take care of it. Our people take care of it.
Supervisor Strainer.
So the guy that's out now, is he coming back or is he out forever?
Sir, I don't know. I have a piece of paper that says a temporary permanent disability, and I don't know what that means.
So then this part-time person could possibly step into that role after?
Yes, sir. That's a possibility.
And so what kind of pay are we looking to give this?
So it's on the part-time maintenance mechanic, $28.87 an hour. I believe it's in the package. That's what it's.
Also, it is a secure facility, so that does have some bearing on it as well.
I heard that.
All right, we have a motion, we have a second. We had a discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. There's one discussion item, that's the sheriff's office vehicle fleet. And this item, if we remember, was identified by our chairman as a priority goal for 2025. So, Under Sheriff.
Yes, sir. So we've been exploring the possibility of leasing police vehicles. Some departments do lease police vehicles. We have gone forward with that. I've gotten a few quotes on that. But we just have not looked at it. It just extends. Unfortunately, if we lease 10 vehicles a year at $180,000, we're up over $1 million for our vehicle fleet in just a few years. And I don't think that would be, that's not going to be the appetite of the board. I'm not speaking for them, but we are exploring on Thursday what we can do to purchase vehicles at the best price. Upfitting is an expensive venture for us. We've recycled a lot of our vehicle lights and sirens as much as we can. But that is slowly coming down to a thing of the past. We're not going to be able to do that as much. We're not going to be able to recycle those lights as much. But we'll do the best we can. But we do need to move forward with vehicles. We're running short. We're running vehicles that are 10 and 11 years old on patrol.
Is there any preference on this from the county administrator or treasurer's office on leasing versus purchasing police vehicles?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had a long discussion with the sheriff and the undersheriff last week. We've been looking at leasing cars through Enterprise for 2 years now. Both for our regular fleet vehicles and for the road patrol vehicles. We've determined that, as Undersheriff has said, the cost rise significantly at about the 3-year point. Other counties who have done this kind of are expressing similar concerns that, for a county the size of ours, it probably makes more sense for us to purchase our vehicles and not go through a leasing.
So is that the direction you think we're headed?
Yes, sir.
Purchase? All right, good. Supervisor Conover?
Yeah, the only thing John has said, I think you need to move close to this. I'm uncomfortable with the idea of any significant number of emergency vehicles that are old or not operable. I think that we need to be sensitive to that. You can see in recent events, that's not a good thing. And so I think we should put a priority on making sure that, the fleet is as it should be.
Administrator?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have looked at that. That's going to be our priority this year. We've been putting $400,000 into the fleet reserve. We know we're going to need to increase that. At this point, we're thinking probably another $200,000 to get to $600,000. Will let us replace vehicles at a reasonable pace, but we'll take a look at that and I'll come back to the committee with a recommendation.
Supervisor Conover?
Yeah, and the other complicating factor here is the lag time on the order. You could be looking at a year.
Yes, sir.
You could be looking at a year. So we've got to get out that far out in front and with our decision making. We're seeing it at the municipal level as well. That the hopefully it's going to improve, but you're looking at least a year.
So how many vehicles do we have now?
Right now, I think we're 83, but that's the entire fleet, sir. That's downstairs in the facility, vans, transport vans, maintenance vehicles.
So if any one time, is this a question you can answer? Is how many are on the road?
Police cars, yeah. You could have on a day that everybody's in 13.
And aren't these getting all like to the 200,000 mile mark?
There's a few that are, sir, yes.
So why have we never done a replacement program where we get X amount every year so we can stay more budget neutral? We don't have a.
No, we did.
So we're just looking here to look at replace or rent. We're just looking to replace or rent here.
Not to rent, we're looking to purchase new vehicles.
So that's all, we're not gonna lease. Decided that wasn't a way to go.
We decided And we looked at that, I'll defer to Tammy on this, but we've looked at it twice over the past 2 years. And we've determined that the rising cost, at least in the short term, would go up to at least $1 million for patrol vehicles, for example. And that's not something, now, we do recognize we got patrol vehicles, they're spending like $8,000 a year to maintain. So those are gonna need to be replaced, and we want to accelerate a little bit the replacement of road patrol and also some of our fleet vehicles.
I believe that the chair, I don't want to speak for him, but I believe his priority goal was to establish a replacement schedule.
Right.
Am I correct?
Our insurance, administrator, she's looked at this too, and it suggests that we have some vehicles with 100,000 miles on them. Feels it unsafe to keep them around, so this is all part of the, streamlining and getting better on what we do, so I think we all gotta address this soon.
County treasurer has a word on this?
My request, just kindly go forward. If the treasurer's office could be part of these discussions, I think it would be helpful. Just to have a financial, eye on it as well. Not that you guys don't have financial, acumen, but I think it would be great. Go forward to kind of loop the treasurer's office in so that we kind of all have our thoughts together.
All right, thank you. Supervisor Driscoll,
Thank you,
last,
Chairman.
last word on this.
As Chairman, as Supervisor Conover said, this is really a priority issue. Probably more so than the first request for additional food. I mean, this is a public safety issue. I mean, this is the Public Safety Committee, and it's a public safety issue, and sometimes you gotta bite the bullet in order to provide that service.
Supervisor Conover.
Yeah, I mean, if we have fallen behind a little bit, and there could be many reasons for that, the lag, taking a year or two to get a vehicle, price of the vehicle, I mean, there could be a number of reasons why, but if we've fallen behind, I think the plan should be to bite the bullet, purchase what's required to get current, and then as Mr. Strainer, Supervisor Strainer has said, and then recycle so many each year within the budget, 3, 4 each year, so that it has as little amount of impact on the operating condition taxes as possible. But it may require having to, purchase some number to get current.
Administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Supervisor Conover, we'll take it on to come back to the committee, excuse me, with a recommendation on how we'd move forward with this.
Very good. Thank you very much. Under Sheriff, thank you for being with us today. We appreciate it. All right, the last office, the Office of Emergency Services, we've got our Director Henry Mason with us. There are, let's see, 7 items, and I believe we can move on the first 3. We'll move this along. It's a resolution to amend the 2025 budget. This is for a 2020 Homeland Security grant. The second one is to amend the budget for a 2022 Homeland Security grant. And the third item is to amend the budget for a 2023 State Homeland Security grant for different amounts. But Amory, can you just address those first 3, please?
Sure. So the first 3 items come to us every year. We apply for the SHSP grant. Funding for this grant is over the Sheriff's Department, our department, and also for IT. So this is kind of spent over those 3 departments. And what we're requesting to do is just to roll over funds that have not been spent yet within those particular years that are listed.
Motion Supervisor Conover, second Supervisor Gillian.
We can take it as that's gonna be one resolution, correct? We'll combine them into one resolution.
This is amending the budget. So they're all actually 1 through 6 are all going to be a budget amendment.
Right.
I'll make that my motion, if that's all right.
You want to move on 1 through 6?
Sure.
All right, so the first 3 were state homeland security grants. 4th is the domestic terrorism prevention grant, and 5 and 6 are hazmat grants, 1 from 21 and 1 from 22. Just so everyone understands, you got 6 items that we're going to move on. There's a motion by Supervisor Conover, Supervisor Gilligan, is you
Oh, yeah.
second that? Okay. Any further questions on it? All in favor, items 1 through 6,
Aye.
opposed? Approved. Seventh item is a request for resolution to approve a MOU between the New York State Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Services and Warren County to accept possession of New York State Department of Homeland Security owned flood mitigation equipment in accordance with the terms set forth in the MOU. Anne Marie, can you explain that for us?
Yeah, so the state recently came to us within the last week or so to let us know that they had some funds they were going to allot over the counties. The funds are coming in the way of equipment. They would not give us an actual dollar amount of what was sent our way, but based on a flood risk formula, they came up with a certain list of items that we could use in the county. So what they're looking for is for us to approve the MOU. They would go through and order all of this equipment, because all of the counties in the state are getting it except for downstate counties. So they're hoping to do one or, a couple of different purchases, but in bulk. So that way their rates would be better. So also attached to this is a list of the equipment that they are looking for us to assume, not ownership, but again, just to have them on our property. And we can use them in any municipality. We can use them in conjunction with mutual aid with other counties as well. And they are looking for us to maintain this equipment. If anything were to happen to the equipment, if we saw that it would make sense to repair it, we'd repair it. If it was not repairable, we would just surplus it and let the state know.
Motion to move item 7 forward. Supervisor Mayday. Second. Supervisor Driscoll. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Anne Marie, anything else for us?
Nope, that was it.
Thank you for being with us. We appreciate it. Privilege of the floor. And committee member have any items you want to discuss? Other supervisors? Anyone else? Seeing none, accept the motion to adjourn. Supervisor Strainer, second. Supervisor Conover, any discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?